Well, as we mentioned earlier, Russia and Belarus have begun 2 weeks of Air Force military drills. And the two countries have held joint exercises in the past year as Russia began its offensive in Ukraine. Well, this time the Belarusian Defense Ministry says the tactical flight exercises are defensive in nature. Now, there are concerns Moscow may be pushing Minsk to join the war in Ukraine. There's been alarm about a build-up of Russian troops in Belarus and military activity in the country in recent weeks. Moscow had used its neighbour as a springboard to launch attacks on Ukraine almost a year ago. Ali Hashim is live for us again in Moscow. So, Ali, once again, what are Russian officials saying about why they're conducting these joint Air Force drills with Belarus? What's the goal?
Well, Sammy, what's being said here in Moscow is that these drills are for operational compatibility. So just a few weeks after President Putin's visit to Belarus, to Minsk, by the end of December, and now we see that the Russian aerospace force going to Belarus and conducting these drills there. Now, with respect to the details of these drills, they're going to be more technical, as you mentioned, more on supplies, patrols. However, there are many fears that, or concerns, that these are just, it's just the beginning before the conducting of the training of the Belarus pilots, which was agreed on in President Putin's visit. During President Putin's visit to Belarus last month, it was agreed that Russia will start training the Belarus pilots on using the Sukhoi planes that will be carrying unconventional weapons. So this is the issue that maybe some people are concerned over. There's another issue that's also being taken into consideration, that these drills are also shifting the attention inside Ukraine from the borders with Russia to the borders with Belarus. And this will cause that the Ukrainian authorities or the Ukrainian government will also move forces towards the north, just to take into consideration that there might be any kind of shift on the front. So this is in general what's being said with respect to the drills. However, this is expected to continue, and this is not the first drill that goes between the Russians and the Belarus government or the Belarus army. This is continuing, but this is the first time since 2 years that the Belarus Air Force and the Russian Air Force are conducting kind of joint drills together, and it's really significant that it's taking place at the time of the war in Ukraine.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much, Ali Hashim. Let's continue this, though, with Natasha Butler. She joins us now live from Kyiv. So no doubt a different perspective there in Kyiv. Are they worried that these joint exercises are preparations for another operation from the north?
Well, look, any activity on the Belarusian border is, of course, going to be of concern to authorities in Kyiv. They've been watching now over the past few weeks this build-up of Russian forces and Belarusian forces on that border, more military hardware coming in, the two sides carrying out a number of military exercises. The latest, these air exercises that are supposed to last for 2 weeks. So, of course, that is a concern. And even though the defense minister in Belarus says these are just defensive exercises, that's enough to worry officials in Ukraine, because, of course, they know that it was from territory in Belarus that Russia launched its offensive in February last year. Even though Belarus and its forces weren't directly involved, they know that they have to be careful and take every precaution necessary. It's why the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky just last week said that Ukrainian forces along that border must be bolstered. We know that they've already been building fortifications for some time now to be ready and prepared all along that border. There are, though, some intelligence experts. We the Pentagon, for example, last week, who have said that they don't necessarily expect any new offensive from the northern border of Ukraine over the Belarusian border anytime soon. However, what they do say is this could be a tactic by the Russians to try and distract Ukraine and try and lure some Ukrainian forces away from fighting in the east up to the north.
All right, and that's Natasha Butler for us from Kyiv.